to this. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video. Today we are doing a virtual conversation with my lovely, lovely bestie all the way in the other side of the country, but that's okay. We are going to be doing one of my favorites, which is none other than the 20 question book tag. For those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Jaya. It is such a pleasure to have you here, and I cannot wait to get started on this video. So if you're interested, definitely stick around. It's reading time here at JBay's Corner. So, Minabear.
Yes.
Just to jump start us, are you reading anything exciting right now?
I am kind of in the middle of a book right now. I'm in the middle of Between Two Kings by Lindsay Straubs. It's been slow, but that is my current read right now, and I've been enjoying it. I've gotten through 5 chapters so far, and it's the second book of a 3-book series.
So for those that don't know, this book is part of a series that recently came to fruition. The first book, when it first came out, was called something completely different.
Yes.
For those of you that watched the Christmas unboxing, there was a very strong reaction that I had to the first book in this series that Mina had gifted me, which is very sweet of her. But it was originally called Split or Swallow, and now it's been turned into a series. And the first book was renamed Kiss of the Basilisk, and this is the second book in the series. Until date, I'm terrified to read this series, but I do know that it's one of Mina's favorites, so we'll probably hear more about Lindsay soon. But that kind of brings us into our first question, which is, what are your favorite genres to read?
I mean, come on. I love romantasy, historical romance. Those are my favorites to read. It I don't want to say that they're light reads, they're not, but the books that I have been reading in that genre have me fully immersed into this fantasy world, and it's something other than what I'm currently living in. So I would definitely have to say romance fantasy is my favorite.
That's fair. I'm smiling ridiculously over here because Mina and I actually met through school, and it was graduate school that we met through. And the sheer amount of reading that we had to complete on a daily basis just to survive school. It's funny because I feel like my husband, if he was doing this, right? And I feel like if our husbands were doing this, they would literally be like, that's such a waste of time. Like, her husband likes to read biology textbooks for fun, and my husband likes to read anything educational. And she and I are like, we are going to be all the way over there with our smut. Thanks. Appreciate you.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a very entertaining thing to see for sure. But no, I completely understand. Such good genres, and I definitely think there's a time and place for them, especially when you're looking for an escapist kind of vibe.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like you read popular books or more underrated books? Like indie?
I do like indie books a lot. I would say I probably lean more towards indie. And I'm not opposed to popular books either, but I don't read fast enough for me to like follow the bandwagon as it's going along. So, and I think the I have the book right next to me right here. That's why I'm pointing at it. This book, Kiss of the Basilisk, this was definitely an indie writing. It started out indie, so I think that just has a soft spot in my heart.
That's fair. I also think there were other books that you've read that were definitely more indie too. Like, so Mina also, we'll talk about it as we get further in, I think. But one of the things that she actually introduced me to was Kindle Unlimited. So for those that don't know, if you do have a Kindle on Amazon, a bunch of different books are actually free through the Kindle library. And that's what it was originally generated for. Of course, it's grown into a different kind of beast. And I know there's different thoughts and feelings on Amazon at this point. But that being said, if you do happen to have a Kindle and you are on the Kindle Unlimited plan, I have personally noticed that they do have a lot of the indie authors. And so it's a very, very easy way to look into those types of books.
Absolutely.
And I definitely
That's one of the reasons why I love Kindle Unlimited.
And Mina definitely is the one who got me into that as well, because I was definitely more mainstream, for sure.
Take full responsibility.
So, what author do you feel like you've read the most books from? There
I
was
would
that Hispanic author or Latina author that you used to read when we were in medical school. I don't know if you
Oh, Isabel Allende. I would
remember.
say as far as well, I guess the question also to ask is like standalone books per author versus like a series. Because if it's standalone books, it would definitely have to be Isabel Allende. That's the person you're thinking of. I think I've read the most because she doesn't really have series. She just has novels, individual novels. Um, but other books that are in like the most that I've read have been like in a series. So like the Plated Prisoner series, or six
Mm-hmm.
books in that, and that's by Raven Kennedy, I think. And then
Mm-hmm.
of course, the ACOTAR series with Sarah J. Maas. That's six books for eight.
Five, six should be coming out soon. Fingers
Okay,
crossed.
yeah. So okay, Sarah J. Maas is not then on that roster. So I don't remember how many Isabel Allende books I've read. I think it's at least seven. So I would say yeah, she's the one that I read the most of.
I guess that author just stuck in my head because I remember you used to talk about her a lot back when we were in school. I know you really loved her at that point. She also is more historical romance vibes, right? Or historical.
More historical with heavy romance, but not, I wouldn't call it, not all of them are historical romance.
What was your favorite book in like the ones you've read by her?
Ooh. I would say, oh gosh, they're all good. I would have to say House of Spirits. That was a very good book. It was a beautiful book. There was a lot of, oh gosh, I can't pick one. House of Spirits, definitely. That was my favorite one. There was a lot of political drama. There was a love story. It was beautiful. I would say the House of Spirits was definitely my favorite.
Nice, nice. And it sounds like it was more like vibes wise, it was more positive. It sounds like, right? Like a happy book?
No, not
No, totally off.
particularly. It's So she writes a lot of her books kind of surrounding what I think is the Chilean Revolution, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Or at least there was a time of like political uprising in Chile. So it had to surround with a lot of that. So there was a lot it's a lot of torrid love affair
Okay.
is what she does.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. In terms of the different novels that you read, do you have a most relatable character that you loved the most?
Um I would say since I'm reading the Kiss of the Basilisk series, I can relate to the main character Tem a lot. Um, she's a very stubborn and confused girl, and sometimes I feel I can be the same way. She's a very powerful girl when she comes into her power and when she, gets what she wants and she wants answers. But I'm at a point in my life where I feel very split sometimes, so I feel like I relate to her the most.
That's fair. That makes sense. Have you always loved reading? Like, has it always been a passion of yours?
It has. It's definitely accelerated since COVID,
That's fair.
but I have always liked reading. I think throughout my life, I just had a really hard time finding a genre that I liked. So I
Mm,
didn't mind reading, but I just found myself getting bored with books really easily up until finding historical romance and romantasy.
that makes sense. Okay. Very nice. There we go. It's like I can't read questions, guys. I can't go in order, apparently. Anyways, what book do you feel was like written for you? I feel like I know the answer to this, but yes.
Which book was written for me? I don't want Split or Swallow to keep being the same answer over and over again because
Was
that's just gonna.
expected though.
It was. I mean, I feel like I don't want to say it's my life, but like it's a really good book. I would say like a series. I don't. I would say books that were written for me because they just were so. To me, they were so well written. I would say, for example, what was I just said the series, the Plated Prisoners series. You know
Mm,
how much I like that series. Not because I particularly relate to it, but I just loved it so much and how the world building was and how the series carried on over 6 books where the main character Orange she starts from having one mentality from the first book and then seeing her completely shift and change. I thought it was very well written and I just felt like the author knew that I existed and she's like, you, I know exactly what you need. So I loved it.
I also have to give an anecdote here because when she says it was written for her, it was to the point where she would literally call me and give me updates and say, you need to read this series. And we were both reading it around the same time. I want to say it was like around November through like February ish time period during the
Yes.
winter season. And so she kept saying, she's like, Jay, you have to read this. Like, it's such a good series. Like, you need to read this. And so I was like, okay. So I finally picked up the first book when I think she was on book 3 at that point, and I had finished all 6 books by the time she hit book 4. So she was just like, I love this series so much, I can't physically read it. And I was like, what does that even mean? And she was like, I'm so
Because I
immersed
didn't
in the
want it to
world.
end.
Exactly.
I didn't want it to end. By book 6, I was like, okay, I can understand why the author did what she did to end the series. But to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, like, I think she could have squeezed another book out of it, honestly. She really could have. But I also appreciate the fact that she didn't. Like, she didn't do just like a happy ending, or it wasn't even a happy or a sad, well, kind of spoiler alert. It wasn't a happy or a sad ending. It was just like, huh, where do we
I
go from
agree.
here? And I'd never read anything like that. And you're so right. I didn't want it to end, and it broke my heart when it did, but only for the best reasons possible.
I am glad you finally made it through the series. I think it's worth the read. The other thing I will say though that's always nice is you can always revisit it. If there were ever certain scenes you want to go back to, you could. So there
Hmm.
is that. What do you prefer? A book written in first or third person?
I That's a good question. I think I like it in third person.
Yeah, I think like it's a tricky question because I feel like there's certain books where I feel like if the narrator, who's the main character telling the story in first person, is telling the story and they're a reliable narrator, then tolerable. But I found that most first person reads, it's oftentimes like an unreliable narrator, and so you kind of want to scream at them because you're going through the story with them. Whereas I feel like as a third party observing the book, it makes it more fun because you're watching the characters like it's a play. So I agree. I'm definitely more of a third person as well, I feel.
And also, sometimes certain authors, like the story could be great, but then they bring in a character and they start talking in first person. I'm just like, you sound really annoying.
Correct. I totally agree. I
I'd
also
rather I'd rather observe from the third person than be inside the character's head sometimes. So I
agree.
think I like third person more.
I agree. I also feel like it almost gives it like a TV show movie vibe when it's third
Hmm.
person versus it being first person. So I feel you. Especially if you
Absolutely.
don't like the character. Then it's so much
Right.
more difficult to read that perspective. Are you more of a mood reader or a TBR reader?
That's a good question. I think it's mood. It's definitely mood.
I also feel like your reading style and the genres you naturally gravitate towards have also evolved over the course of the years. So, it's I think it's a little different in your case too, just from my observation, in the sense that like you go through phases of genres more so than
Right.
like seasonal moods or things like that. Like there's so many different ways to describe a mood reader. I feel like you're more of a genre mood reader. Like you'll go through a bunch of books of the same genre and then you'll be like, okay, I need a break type of thing. So,
Yeah, like when I went through my Greek mythology phase,
mm-hmm.
or like for you, for example, I've noticed that you pick books based off of the month, like
Mm-hmm.
themes, and that's how
I'm
you
very
design your
seasonal.
TBR.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only time that I really stick to like a TBR or like a theme is when it's school time. So when it's September, October, it's like I have to have like honestly, actually no, from like end of August till probably end of January is my favorite time to read Dark Academia.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I'm more of a fall girl too. Like August, September, I'm reading more dark academia vibes or like school vibes. It would also very commonly correlate with like my rereads of Harry Potter too, is like September, October timeframe. So I totally feel you.
I would say my
Um,
favorite months to read dark academia are October and January.
yeah, that's fair. Especially with like the seasons that you're going through. 100%. I can totally see that. Would you prefer to read a great series or a great standalone book?
A great series. I have attachment issues. I have like when there if nothing makes me more upset than a great standalone book because it's so great. I'm like I need more. And there's
Mm,
no more. So what do
that's
I do with
fair.
that? But
That's
then the
fair.
same could be said with a series. At least it lasts longer.
It does. I think my only issue with like series, I obviously read a lot of series, so I'm not one to talk. But I think the thing about series is like I can only read series if they're complete. I really struggle with like reading series as the books
Struggle too.
release
Yeah.
because I feel like by the time the new book comes out, you've already forgotten the previous book. So you either go in with
Yep.
like half memory of like what happened, or you're going into the book like and you have to reread the previous books. So I think it depends on my level of commitment to the series in order to read a new series. Like, for example, I'm really struggling with Fourth Wing right now because at this point, I know the new book is not going to come
Right.
out for like at least another year. So if Rebecca Yarros is taking a break and she still has two more books left, like to be quite honest, like Onyx Storm was good, but it was such a filler. Like I would have to go back and reread it in order to read the next book,
Oh, really?
which
That's
is frustrating.
disappointing. Okay.
Exactly, because I felt like there's so many things that happened with the other dragons and stuff where I feel like I would have to reread that. That may have been a spoiler, guys. I'm sorry, but it was one of those things where I definitely feel like you have to go back and revisit at least certain chapters or scenes in the book to reconnect to some of the characters. I also, to a certain extent, feel the same way about Akatar. Like, I don't know if I'm really ready for book 6 to come out because I read that series so long ago now that I feel like I would need to do a reread. But at least with Akatar, like since the series is majority completed, at least the main story, the 4 books there are done, and then it's more like side story characters, stories for the side characters that's being done at this point. I think that should be fine. I do think, though, for me personally, I would much prefer to get the 4th and final book in the House of Shadow. No, sorry, the House of Earth and Blood, or whatever the first book is called. In the Crescent City series, I would prefer the 4th book in the Crescent City
Mm,
series before the Akatar series because at least then it'd be complete. But yeah, I love a good series as long as it's complete. That is my caveat on that statement. Do you like to annotate your books?
no. I'm really bad at doing that.
I feel like
I'm
it has to
not
be a really good
I've
quality.
tried and I'm really envious of women that do or men and women that do annotate their books, but I don't. What I have been doing lately though is since I've been journaling a lot and I've been reading Between Two Kings, I will do like a Cliff Notes summary of like what I read in my journal, and it'll be like my thoughts and just silly little opinions about what I thought about the chapter. That's as far as annotating as I've ever done ever. But to do it in the book, I think it's because I just have horrible handwriting. Um, I remember I went to this meet and greet. Well, it was the only meet and greet book thing I ever. Of course, it was for Lindsay Stroud. It was really fun. And there was this girl next to me who she was like opening her book with her friend, and it was like beautifully annotated. And she was just like, "I think for this book, I'm going to annotate it in pink." And I was like, "I want to annotate my book in pink. Like, I want to do that."
I think
But
it's also
I don't know. I feel like I annotate like 2 pages and then I'm just over it.
I think it's a lot of discipline.
It is.
But I do think like certain books bring it out in me personally. Like there are certain
Mm,
authors whose descriptions and their flowery way of writing is just so beautiful that you have to annotate it. But it's funny, speaking on that topic, because like I've obviously talked to you about Magnolia Parks before and how much I love that
mhm.
series. And then I've
Mhm.
also told you recently that I started reading the Boys of Tommen series by Chloe Walsh, which was Binding
Mhm.
13, Keeping 13. And I remember she was in shock because I literally called her and I was like, I think Keeping 13 is a 6 out of 5. And she's like, you never say that. I was like, I know. But what's fascinating to
Yeah,
me,
5 out of 5 stars is tops, and then for someone to say 6 out of 5 stars, who says that? No one's ever said that.
no,
You've
I
never said
know
you,
it's.
and you are not an easy like star giver for
I would
books.
say I'm like actually not bad. I feel like I give most books threes and fours, but it's hard to get a five from me. I will say that it's hard to
That
get a
exact
five.
that's what I'm saying. I think for me, I like love every book that I read, so I'm like 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars.
I think the interesting thing though in terms of the annotation is Magnolia Parks. I think what stood out to me in the book was the flowery writing. Whereas
Mm,
in Binding 13 and Keeping 13, it's more the specific scenes because it's like you can really feel the intensity of what's going on with the characters and the scenes are so descriptive. So it was
right.
interesting because I was like, I don't want to annotate pages upon pages of scenes, but I had a blast annotating Magnolia Parks because there were so many metaphors and similes and just like expressions that were so much fun to sit and highlight and like write my comments and thoughts on. So it's funny like how sometimes the book can also bring that out in you.
Hmm.
But no, I do agree.
Absolutely.
It's a commitment for sure. Do you prefer a longer book or a shorter book?
Longer book.
I think for me it depends on the book. There are some books that should not be long. They just should not be long. AKA Pucked by Helena Hunting needed to be 30 pages. That was ridiculous. Also, Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. That book is phenomenal. The story is great, but the amount of description, you could have cut down 100 pages. Easy. Anyways, neither here nor there. Favorite bookish tropes?
Define bookish tropes.
So, like, your brother's best friend dating, like that
Oh,
type of thing.
okay.
Or like
Um,
Grumpy Sunshine, like those are tropes. Marriage of convenience.
say enemies to lovers. Call
Hmm.
me simple gal.
Well, you do like your romanticides. I feel like that's the primary focus of most
Call
of
me a simple gal. But
them.
yeah, I really do like the enemies to lovers because I think if the banter is written really well, it's just really funny.
Hmm.
Like, for example, remember what was it, Bride by Ali
Hmm.
Hazelwood? Technically, it was like enemies to lovers slash
Oh,
marriage of
100%.
convenience.
100%.
It was, I don't know if she meant to be funny, but it was funny.
It was funny. I agree.
Really good.
It was very satirical. I think it was like Misery herself is so satirical, and then Lowen is just such a man of few words and comes off as very grumpy and like serious. So it was hilarious to watch.
I just remember reading the book and I was telling you, I was like, I don't know if this is meant to be a comedy, but I've never, it's rare to get a laugh out of me when it comes to reading. It was funny in the best, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Something's happening outside, but it's not at my home, so we're okay. We're gonna move on from that noise. What is your favorite book to TV or film adaptation that you've seen?
I haven't seen very many, only because I think I'm a snob in the sense where I don't like to watch the show if it's in a book. I just
Mm,
automatically I'm like, oh no, the book is always going to be better.
that's fair.
I can't really say. And then I think the closest it would come to would be Bridgerton and
Mm,
Queen Charlotte.
okay. Well, Queen Charlotte would make sense because I think they wrote the book after
Yeah, they
the
you told me
series
they
had
wrote the
aired.
book after the series.
Yeah,
I would say I really like that. I really like that a lot. That would be again, I'm a pretty big snob when it comes to that. And
that's
then
fair.
my attention span with movies. That's already troubled as it is.
I do know this. I do also agree though on Bridgerton, only because I think when Julia Quinn was writing the book, she was very, very honest to the time period. And I think it's kind of interesting to see how Shonda Rhimes has taken that and diversified it in different ways. I
Hmm.
think some of the changes make a lot of sense to me. Other things like I struggle with a little bit because I was a Puritan with the book. But that being said, I do think that it has been done well for sure, while staying true to the storyline. So that's been nice to see. Do you ever DNF a book?
Yes. Yes, I have. It was Memoir of My Melancholy Horse by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. That book is only 120 pages long. I've never been able to finish it. I've made multiple attempts. It is so boring that I just never finished it.
For that kind of a title, to hear that book is boring is very interesting to me.
You know what? Maybe sometime in this lifetime of mine, I will probably pick it up, but not anytime soon.
That's fair.
I cannot tell you how many attempts I've made to finish this book and I couldn't. And there are books that I should have DNF'd, but I just wanted to stick it to the end, like Captive Bride.
Mm. Her brain cells died.
Yeah.
What's a book you wish had a sequel? Since you did mention you have many books that you would love to see sequels for on your standalones.
On my standalones. Oh gosh.
Well, you did also say you wanted a sequel to Goldfinch, if it was possible. Anything else?
I would like that, even though it is 6 books, and there were certain aspects of the series that the author really dragged out. But I would like to see one more book.
That's fair.
I
Any
would
other
have liked to
books?
have seen one more book because there are so many questions that were on. Oh, Gothicana.
Mm,
I would love to see a sequel to that
I do agree. I kind of wish we had more of a conclusion to what happens after the events of the first book.
because
I
they
do
kind of
agree.
just like brushed. Runix just kind of like brushed it aside. Like I think there was one. Wasn't there a girl that died at the lake and no one knows what happened to her? I'd kind of like to know what happened to her.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there was a lot of deaths that were not clearly wrapped up. I would also love to know more about the two characters and where they go as individuals, especially since we've gotten so much of their background and it's so traumatizing and it's so ridiculous. There have to be
Mm,
lasting effects and there have to be other crazy things that are happening. So I would love to know where that went, but no, I do agree. That would be a good one to get a secondary book for. What
absolutely.
is your favorite fictional place or setting?
Night Court. Yeah, I really like the Night Court.
I don't know if I would like the night court, but Valeris for sure. I would love to be in Valeris. It is
Love to be in
wonderful. I
Valeris.
want to be in that house specifically. I want a house where I walk in and say, "Hey, I want this food and it's ready for me," or I walk in and I say, "I need a hot bath and it's ready for
And
me."
not just Valeris, but the house that Nesta
Mm-hmm.
stays in.
Correct.
I would love to be in that house. It, yeah, yeah. I would say that would have to be my favorite setting. And then for Dark Academia, if I can add to this, I
Of course.
really like the setting of Nocticadia. Like I would totally want to go to school there.
That's
Totally want to go to
fair.
school
I
there.
don't know if I'd want to go to school there just because of the other things that are happening at that school and the effects that that could have on a person. But I do think from a purely like medical college vibe and like just the feels of the school, I do agree. It sounds very atmospheric for sure. Um, do you prefer an ebook, an audiobook, or a physical book?
I can't. I have yet to ever do an audiobook. I've heard some while I was sitting with you in the car. I
Oh,
think
but
that's
I
an
don't listen
unfair
to it like a
judgment.
normal
I know
person.
you don't. You watch it, you listen to it at 3.6 times the speed, but that's because you are a seasoned professional. I would definitely say Kindle and a physical book any day. Physical book.
That's fair. Do you feel like though your Kindle has kind of come to a close competitive level of a physical
Oh,
book at this point?
100%. 100%, especially with indie authors. I go through phases where I'm just like, I love physical books. I want a library. And I'm like, I don't know if I want all these books. I'm just happy to have them all on my Kindle.
It's
Happy to have it
actually
on.
so funny to hear her say that though because she was so against an e-reader. I still remember how against an e-reader you were in the beginning. And then when she called me and told me that you need to get a Kindle because of X, Y, and Z, I was like, what just happened?
I
So,
know, and I did extensive research about Kindle versus Nook because I just wanted to get one. I was
yeah.
like, I just want one. I don't want this e-reader, that e-reader. And I didn't realize how many e-readers there are. It just so happens that Kindle and Nook are the like two most popular ones.
Hmm.
Um,
There's another
and
one
when
too. I think it's called Koju, something like that. Starts with a K.
yeah, it's like Cobra or something. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
can't
It
remember
has
what
an
it's called
interesting
now.
name. I'd never heard of that one, but because I'm just such a avid Amazon user and I saw how many more books and how many more indie books that they had, I was like, okay, I feel like as far as variety goes, I'm gonna go after Kindle Unlimited, and I love it.
That's fair. What is your preferred page length for a book? Like what?
400's a good number.
How many?
400.
400? Yeah. I thought for a second you said 100 pages, and I was like, really? I was like, I thought you wanted more pages in your book.
400. I would say
400
that's
is
a good
fair.
number.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think anywhere between 350 to like 500 is fine by
Yeah,
me.
yeah, I agree.
Depending on the story. Actually, I take that back. I think for a romance, just a classic contemporary romance, 250 to 300 is fine. But I think if you're building a world and you're doing a romantasy series or you're doing like a fantasy in general, you need more pages just
Oh
because
yeah,
you're building the
absolutely.
world. So I do agree. And then
Absolutely.
last but not least, final question for today. What is your most anticipated release for this year?
After I finish Between Two Kings, the third book of the series is coming out, which is the prequel.
Oh, okay. Interesting. And that you said that's the final one? So this is actually a duology then.
Well, it's technically a three-book series, so it's Kiss of the Basilisk, and then it's Between Two Kings. That's where Tem's story, so the main character, her name is Temperance, Tem for short. And then the third book, they call it a series, but the third book is actually a story about her mother.
Okay.
And there are talks and rumors that the audience loved one of the characters so much in Between Two Kings, the second book, that they're really egging her about making a spin-off about him.
Okay.
And she's really talking to her manager and publishers about it.
Okay.
So I'm really looking forward to hearing about that.
Okay. So it kind of sounds like then it's a mainly two books, the duology, and then we have the prequel that's going to be about the mom, which would kind of give us more in-depth analysis of Tem, if you will. And then from
Hmm.
there, there may or may not be a spin-off. So it's two main books, and then the universe is growing, basically.
Right.
Okay. Very cool. Very fun. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Mina.
Thank you
I
for
really
having
appreciate it.
me.
It was such a pleasure to have you. I love doing these 20 question videos, guys, because I just think it's so great to see what all of our reading community is doing at home, what they're loving, what they're enjoying. And so I can't thank you enough again. And I
Thank
just
you
wanted
for
to say,
having me. I
of
appreciate it.
course. Thank you for being here. For all of you that are new here, if you did enjoy this content, we usually release videos every week. I usually release videos every Wednesday and Sunday on bookish related content. And I would love to see you back as part of the bookish community. So if you are interested, definitely consider hitting that notification bell and that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And for those of you returning, I can't thank you enough. It's just been such a wonderful journey creating this bookish community with you guys. And as I say to everybody at the end of every video, I just hope that wherever you are, you're having plenty of time to rest, relax, take care of yourself, be surrounded by love, and have plenty of time to read. We'll catch you on the flip side with the next video.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye.